What if I told you that a single decision, a single moment in time, could have completely reshaped the world as we know it? History is filled with pivotal moments where things could have gone drastically different. Today, we're exploring 5 alternate histories that would have changed absolutely everything. From ancient empires to modern warfare, these scenarios will make you question everything you thought you knew about our world. And trust me, the number 1 entry on our list will absolutely blow your mind. We're talking about a world so different that democracy itself might never have existed. But before we dive into these mind-bending alternate realities, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Picture this, it's the year 400 CE, but instead of the ancient world's greatest repository of knowledge going up in flames, the Library of Alexandria continues to thrive. This wasn't just any library, it was the greatest center of learning in the ancient world, containing hundreds of thousands of scrolls covering everything from mathematics and astronomy to medicine and engineering. In our timeline, the gradual decline and destruction of the library represented one of history's greatest intellectual losses. But what if it had survived? By the Middle Ages, instead of Europe entering a period of reduced scientific advancement, we might have seen continuous intellectual progress. Greek and Roman scholars would have built upon each other's work without interruption. Mathematics, astronomy, and medicine could have advanced by centuries. Imagine if scholars during the Islamic Golden Age had access to complete Greek texts instead of fragments. The Renaissance might have happened 500 years earlier. We could have had steam engines in the 12th century, electricity by the 1400s, and space travel by the 1700s. But here's the really mind-bending part. If scientific knowledge had advanced this rapidly, would religion have developed differently? Would major conflicts have happened? Would the age of exploration have been driven by scientific curiosity rather than conquest? In this alternate world, by the time the great explorers would have been born, we might already have been colonizing other planets. The entire trajectory of human civilization would be unrecognizable. The fall of Rome in 476 CE marked the end of one of history's greatest empires. But what if it had never fallen? What if the Romans had successfully reformed their military, economy, and political system to survive indefinitely? In this alternate timeline, we're looking at a world where Roman engineering, law, and administration continue to evolve and spread. Instead of the fragmented medieval kingdoms that emerged after Rome's collapse, imagine a unified European superstate stretching across continents, continuously innovating for over 1,500 years. Roman concrete was already superior to what we used until the modern era. Roman aqueducts were marvels of engineering. If they had continued advancing, we might have seen massive infrastructure projects connecting continents. Picture Roman-built canals linking seas, or massive bridge networks spanning entire regions. But the implications go far beyond engineering. Roman law forms the basis of many modern legal systems, but imagine if it had 1,500 more years to develop. The concepts of citizenship, governance, and individual rights might have evolved in completely different ways. Religious development might have taken entirely different paths, as Roman traditions could have adapted and evolved alongside philosophy and science. The entire cultural landscape of multiple continents would be completely different. And here's where it gets really interesting: if Rome had never fallen, the entire history of Eastern Europe and Asia would be completely different. Different empires would have emerged, or perhaps none at all. By today, we might be living in a world with Roman colonies on every continent, speaking evolved Latin, and governed by institutions that have been in continuous operation for over 2,700 years. In 1241, the Mongol Empire stood at the gates of Europe. They had already conquered vast territories across Asia and Eastern Europe. Then, suddenly, they stopped. Their great Khan died, and the Mongol generals returned east to elect a new leader. But what if their leader had lived just 10 more years? The Mongols weren't just conquerors, they were arguably the most tolerant empire in history. They promoted religious freedom, international trade, and cultural exchange on a scale never seen before. If they had conquered Europe, the impact would have been staggering. First, religious dominance in Europe would have ended immediately. The Mongols practiced religious tolerance, often adopting local religions while allowing all faiths to coexist. Medieval Europe's religious conflicts might never have happened. Religious persecution would have been unthinkable under Mongol rule. But here's where it gets really fascinating: the Mongols were obsessed with learning and technology. They actively sought out scholars, artisans, and inventors from every culture they encountered. If they had conquered Europe, they would have connected European knowledge with Asian innovations 200 years earlier than it actually happened. Imagine European scholars having access to Asian printing presses, advanced chemistry, and navigation technology in the 13th century instead of the 15th. The scientific revolution might have happened 300 years early. We could have had advanced warfare by the 1300s and industrial production by the 1400s. The age of exploration would have been completely different. Instead of Europeans sailing west to find new routes to Asia, we might have had unified expeditions reaching the Americas in the 1300s, equipped with advanced technology and a fundamentally different approach to dealing with indigenous peoples. And here's the kicker: if the Mongols had unified Europe and Asia under one empire, there might never have been a need for nationalism. The entire concept of separate European nations might never have developed. The major conflicts of the modern era could never have happened, because the political conditions that caused them would never have existed. 1588, the Spanish Armada sails toward England, carrying 30,000 men and the ambitions of the most powerful empire on earth. In our timeline, storms and English naval tactics destroyed the fleet. But what if the weather had been calm? What if those ships had landed? If Spain had successfully conquered England, we're looking at a completely different world. First and most obviously, there would be no British Empire. No British colonization of North America, India, Australia, or dozens of other territories. The English language might be spoken only in small pockets, while Spanish becomes the global language. But the implications go much deeper. Protestant England was crucial for certain religious movements' survival. If Catholic Spain had conquered England and eliminated Protestantism there, the entire religious landscape of Northern Europe might have remained Catholic. This could have prevented devastating religious conflicts across Europe. Without British naval dominance, Spain would have maintained control of the seas for centuries longer. Spanish treasure fleets from the Americas would have continued funding European expansion and exploration. Other nations might never have gained independence, remaining under Spanish influence. Here's where it gets really interesting. Without English interference, Spain might have successfully colonized and held onto much more of North America. Instead of English colonies that became independent nations, we might have had Spanish territories stretching across entire continents. No independent American nation means no American Revolution, no revolutionary constitution, and different ideas about democratic government. The concepts of individual liberty that spread from America might never have developed the same way. Without British industrialization, the Industrial Revolution might have started in Spain or elsewhere instead. Steam power, mechanized production, and modern economic systems could have developed completely differently. And here's the really mind-bending part: without certain English-speaking alliances, the major conflicts of the 20th century would have been impossible. There would have been no powerful coalition to challenge European powers during global conflicts. By today, we might be living in a world where Spanish is the international language, different religious traditions dominate multiple continents, and the Americas are a collection of Spanish-speaking monarchies rather than independent republics. Here's the big one: what if Germany had won the First World War? This isn't just about changing one country's fate, this is about rewriting the entire 20th century and beyond. Let's set the scene. It's 1918, but instead of collapsing from exhaustion and revolution, Germany successfully breaks through Allied lines in their spring offensive. The Western Front crumbles, major cities fall, and opposing nations sue for peace. The German Empire emerges victorious. In this timeline, there's no punitive peace treaty humiliating Germany. No massive war reparations crushing the German economy, no hyperinflation of the 1920s. And most importantly, no conditions that would allow extremist movements to rise to power. Think about it, extremist political movements were built on resentment over losing World War I. Without that loss, without the economic devastation that followed, there would be no basis for such movements. No major persecution campaigns. No global conflict in the 1940s as we know it. But the changes go much deeper. A victorious Germany would have reshaped the entire map of Europe and beyond. Multi-ethnic empires might have survived, meaning completely different national boundaries across Central and Eastern Europe. Revolutionary movements in Russia might have failed completely. With Germany winning in the West, they could have sent massive reinforcements to support anti-revolutionary forces. No successful revolution means no authoritarian communist state. No oppressive regime. No global ideological conflict. Without a powerful communist state, revolutionary movements in Asia might never have succeeded either. The entire history of Asia in the 20th century would be unrecognizable. But here's where it gets really wild. Without a devastating Second Global War, decolonization might never have happened. European empires, weakened but not destroyed, might have held onto their colonies for decades longer. By 2025, we might be living in a world dominated by a German-led Central European empire, where monarchies still rule, where democracy never fully triumphed, and where the very ideas we take for granted about freedom and human rights developed along completely different lines. And there you have it, 5 alternate histories that would have changed absolutely everything. From ancient libraries to medieval empires, from naval invasions to world wars, these turning points remind us just how fragile and contingent our history really is. Which of these alternate worlds do you think would have been better or worse than our own? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into alternate history, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. We've got more mind-bending scenarios coming your way. Until next time, remember, history is written by the winners, but it could have been written by anyone.